All right, let's talk about something that every single manager has wondered about. How much productive time are we really getting from our people? Today, we're going to dive into a concept called employee shrinkage. And it's fascinating because it explains exactly why you're probably not getting the full 40 hours of productivity you think you are.
So think about it. The contract says 40 hours per week, plain as day. But what really goes on during those 40 hours? It's way more complex than just clocking in and clocking out. The big question is, are you truly getting what you're paying for in terms of pure, focused output? 40 hours. Yep, that's the magic number, right? It's the standard we all know and build our plans around.
But what if I told you to stop thinking of it as a guarantee? Instead, think of those 40 hours as a time budget. And just like any other budget, it gets spent on a whole lot of different things. And believe me, not all of them are the productive tasks you have in mind. You know, this gap between the budget and the reality, it actually has a formal name in workforce management. It's called shrinkage, and understanding this is absolutely the key to planning effectively. Now, shrinkage isn't just about lost time or something negative. Not at all. It's really the science of managing an employee's time. It's how we account for all that time an employee is paid for but isn't directly generating revenue. See, it's not a punishment. It's a really powerful management tool. Okay, let's break it down. Shrinkage basically falls into two big buckets. First, you've got out-of-office shrink. This one's pretty straightforward. It's time lost when someone's not even at work. Vacation, sick leave, that kind of stuff. Then you've got in-office shrink. This is the sneaky one. This is time lost to non-productive things that happen while an employee is on the clock. Meetings, training, breaks, even when the system goes down.
So all this theory is great, but let's talk numbers. Let's do the math and figure out where that 40-hour budget actually goes.
We're going to start right at the top, 40.0 hours. This is our 100%, our total time budget before we start chipping away at it. First things first, we've got to pull out that out-of-office time. This is the biggest chunk, the time when employees aren't even in the building, whether it's a planned vacation or an unplanned sick day. Based on pretty standard industry averages, you can immediately subtract about 8 hours a week. That covers vacation time and the statistical risk of sick leave. Poof, that's a full day's work right off the top. So our 40-hour budget is already down to 32. But wait, we're not done yet. What about all the time that disappears while an employee is actually present and on the clock? Okay, on average, we lose about 2.5 hours a week just to breaks. Add another hour for meetings, an hour for training, and maybe half an hour for system glitches or failures, and suddenly that's another 5 hours of essential but not directly productive time gone. So let's put it all together. You've got the 8 hours from out of office and the 5 hours from in office. That's a total shrinkage of 13 hours every single week. That means nearly a third of an employee's contracted time is taken up by non-productive activities. And this brings us to the most crucial number of all. The final amount of time you actually have to work with for those revenue-generating tasks is just 68% of that initial 40-hour budget. That's 27 hours, not 40. That is your real productive time budget. So, how does this all work in the real world? Let's step away from the theory and look at a practical example. We're going to follow a day in the life of an employee, we'll call him Sam, and see how these numbers actually play out. You see, this whole thing follows a clear life cycle. First, you do your sizing, calculating what you need based on that 68% figure. Then comes planning, where you schedule everything out. And finally, execution. We're going to zoom in right there on the execution phase, because that's where the perfect plan meets messy reality. So here's Sam's schedule. On paper, it's beautiful, right? Starts at 8 a.m., team meeting at 10, lunch at noon, clocks out at 5 p.m. It's a perfect day. But, life happens. The reality, Sam showed up 30 minutes late. His manager was cool with it. They agreed he'd just stay a half hour later to make it up. So his whole day shifted. His meeting and lunch were on time, but his breaks got pushed. So notice what happened. The volume of work he did was the same, but the timing was totally different. Now, to understand this, we use two really important metrics. First up is conformance. It just asks, did the person work the total number of hours they were supposed to? For Sam, yep, 100%. He worked his full 8 hours. But then there's adherence. This asks, did they work those hours at the time they were scheduled? For Sam, that's a no. his adherence was low because his day was out of sync with the original plan. So why does tracking all this even matter? Because when you analyze the gap between the plan and reality, you can close the loop and start making much smarter, data-driven decisions for the future. The whole process is really just a series of comparisons. First, you compare your sized hours to your scheduled hours to check your planning. Then you compare the scheduled hours to the actual hours worked. That's how you measure things like conformance and adherence. And finally, you compare those actual hours all the way back to your initial sizing. This is how you make your future forecasts incredibly accurate. But listen, none of this works. None of it, without a solid foundation. And that foundation is the staff roster. That master file of who works when, their contracts, their vacation rights, it's everything. If that roster is wrong, the entire process fails. It is literally the backbone. Accurate data is king. So, I want to leave you with this question to chew on. Knowing now that your team's real productive time isn't 40 hours a week, but probably closer to 27, how does that change the way you'll plan for next quarter? How will you adjust your projects, your deadlines, your goals? It's a powerful shift in perspective, and it can absolutely change the game.